So before we start the 5-3 notes, let's just take a minute and do some problems together. So problem number 1 uses the distributive property. So we're going to take this negative 4a squared and we're going to multiply it by all the terms in the parentheses. So the first piece, we have a negative times a positive, that's a negative. Then do the 4 times the 5. Now a squared times a squared, the bases are alike, so keep the base and add the exponents. Let's do that again. So that's going to be negative 24a to the third, positive because we're going to have a negative times a negative, positive 40a squared. Now all of those terms are different powers. We can't add them together. There you go. Let's take a look at number 2. It says, what is the degree of the polynomial? Now we're going to look at each individual term. Now if we combine all the degrees there, it's 5, 5, 4, and 0. So the highest power is 5. So the degree of this polynomial is a 5th degree polynomial. Okay? Let's take a look at number 3. Now we're going to distribute. And I see a square there. What we want to do is we want to actually physically write it twice so that we can distribute. So now you're going to distribute the a to both of those. And then I'm going to distribute the negative 4b to both of those. Now, you should always check to see if there are any like terms. In this particular one, these two are both like terms. Negative 4 and negative 4 of those makes negative 8 of those. Now, when we add like terms, we add or subtract the front coefficients and leave the variable. So that's why the variable stayed a, b. And finally, our last one here is just a distribution. Distribute the 10r to both of those. Distribute the negative 6s to both of those. We do have these like terms in the middle. 20 minus 6 is 14. So we have positive 14 RS's. But you could call those RS's or SR's, it doesn't matter. I tend to kind of go alphabetical just to kind of keep track of things. So there's just a quick little review before we move on to the 5-3 notes. Now the 5-3 notes is about dividing polynomials. We're going to learn 2 techniques. We're going to divide using long division. We're also going to divide using synthetic division. To divide polynomials, you really want to check how many terms the problem has. If it has 1 term, then you divide each term of the top by that divisor. So it just divides into it individually. So it kind of will feel almost like a distribution problem. But in number 2, if it has more than 1 term, then you have to use a technique we're going to go over. We're either going to go over long division or synthetic division, or possibly factoring if it works out that way. So if you look at example 1 here, we've got this polynomial on top divided by 1 term. When it's divided by 1 term, we can just divide it each individually. So I'm going to write this 3ab under each individual term. So I'm going to write it out as 3a squared b divided by 3ab. 6a cubed b squared divided by 3ab. 18ab divided by 3ab. And then I'm going to simplify each monomial division individually. Well, this first one, 3 divided by 3 is 1. One of the a squareds cancels, and the b's cancel, and so the answer is just A. Now let's do this piece. 6 divided by 3 is 2. I have 2 extra a's and 1 extra b. Now you can put the 1 or not, it doesn't matter to me. Now let's do the final one here. 18 divided by 3 is 6. The a's canceled, the b's canceled. So that is our final answer. Those terms are unlike. You can't do anything. There you go. So let's do that one more time. You'll notice we have one term on the bottom. This is an example that I'm going to show you that we can do a little bit of factorization. We haven't talked about factoring much. That's coming in 5-4. But let's do this the way that we talked about in example 1 first. So that would be 12x squared divided by 3x, or 3x divided by 3x, which is 4x plus 1. Okay. Now, a way that we will discuss eventually is, because both of these are divisible by 3x, we can take a 3x out, cancel those out, and then still get an answer of 4x plus 1. So there are sometimes multiple ways to do these problems. Really, it's kind of what you're familiar with and what you see when you first look at it. Now, in example 3, you will notice, hopefully, that there is 2 terms in the bottom. Let me see when I actually mentioned synthetic, because I might just do them twice. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, let me kind of clone this page. So I am going to do this problem twice. Okay, so if you look at it, just like any division problem, we're going to put the x plus 3 on the outside and the x squared minus 5x minus 24 on the inside. Just like in normal division, we're going to compare these two and say, what can I multiply x by to get x squared? You kind of think without going over, matching it perfectly. And that's going to be an x. We're going to distribute. And mathematically, to distribute means we got to multiply by both things. So that's going to be x squared plus 3x. Now, in division, when we put something underneath it, we always want to subtract whatever we put. So to subtract something in algebra means to add its opposite. And so now our x squared minus x squared, our x squared minus x squared goes away. And then negative 5 minus 3 is negative 8x. And then we bring down the next thing, and we do it again. We say what times x would get me negative 8x. And that's going to be negative 8. We're going to distribute to both pieces. That's negative 8x minus 24. We are subtracting, so we change the signs of both, and then we add up, and whatever's down here is our remainder. And so our answer is x minus 8. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same problem using a technique called synthetic division. Now you can do it under here. I duplicated the page and then and I'll do it on its own page. Okay. Now the way that I noticed that this is a good candidate for synthetic division is you want your x right here to be a plain old x. This needs to be two terms, and it needs to be x plus a number or x minus a number, which it is, okay? Now, if that's the case, then you can try synthetic division, and we're going to put x plus 3 equal to 0, and then we're going to solve that. So we just subtract 3 from both sides. We get x is negative 3. Now, this synthetic box is how you're going to make it every single time, okay? So we're going to put negative 3 in a little tiny box, or part of a box, okay? And then we're going to list out the coefficients of what we're dividing into. So our coefficients are going to be 1, negative 5, negative 24. Now they have to go in order, so the powers have to go 2, then 1, and then nothing. And so if that's the case, we just write down the coefficients next. So 1, negative 5, negative 24. Now, you're going to always put a line between the last two, whatever they are, and then skip a little, you need space right here, and then make an addition line. And you can even put a little thing here that says plus to remind you we're going to actually add. Now, to finish off our box, before we actually do any math, you're just going to set this box up like this every time. We're going to put a little arrow under the first coefficient and bring it down. Okay, so now we've set up the box, so now let's do the math. We're going to multiply these two, and then we're going to write our multiplication answer right there. So we're going to multiply, write it down. So multiply, write it down, and then add these up. Multiply, write it down, add these up. Again, that's our remainder. Now we have to put the x's back in our answer, okay? So this was an x squared. Use this little arrow to remind you I'm bringing down the x squared now, and it's just going to become an x. So our answer is x minus 8, the exact answer we got before. Now how could we check our work? Well, x plus 3 times x minus 8 better give you x squared minus 5x minus 24. And it does if you did do the multiplication. Okay, let's do another one. Now this little notation just means to divide by. A negative 1 power is to flip it. So this technically is just that divided by h minus 4. It's just a notational thing. So you just have to recognize, oh, that means I'm dividing by negative h, that I'm dividing by h minus 4. Now, let's do long division, and then let's do the same problem, and let's do synthetic division. So long division, you're going to put h minus 4 on the outside, h squared minus 11h plus 28 on the inside, and let's do the math. What times h will give me h squared? That's an h. Put it above the h's and distribute. We get h squared minus 4h. We are subtracting, so change the signs of both. And we get negative 7h plus 28. Let's do it again. So now we have to compare what times h would give me negative 7h. That's going to be negative 7. Put it on top there. Distribute it to both. We are subtracting, so change the signs of both. Here is our remainder. Okay? So our answer is h minus 7. Now let's do the same problem again. This time, let's practice doing synthetic division. So, we're going to take our h minus 4. We're going to set it equal to 0. We're going to solve for h. We're going to put that number in its own corner box. Then we're going to check our dividend. What are we dividing into? So our powers should be in order. H squared, then H, then no H's at all. If so, use the coefficients to write right here. So our coefficients are 1, negative 11, positive 28. Between the last two numbers, put a bar. Then put an addition bar. Under the 1, put an arrow, bring it down. Now we're ready to do the multiplication. So we're going to multiply, write it down, add them up, multiply, write it down, add them up. There's our remainder. Let's put our x's back in. Remember, this was x squared. Now this is going to go down to be an x, and it goes in descending order. So x minus 7 is our answer. If we would have a remainder, let's say our remainder was 2, then you just write plus that remainder over whatever your divisor is. We didn't have any remainder for this one. Okay? One more. So I am going to do synthetic division. I like synthetic division when I can. I'm going to use it because I see that this starts out with a plain old x. So what do? Well, we're going to put our x plus 1 equal to 0. Solve for x. Whatever you get, put in the corner of your synthetic division box. Now, let's look at our dividend for a minute. What are we dividing into? Now, look at our powers. They go 4, 3. Oh, we're missing squared. Then they go x, and then they go 1. So what do? Well, in the squared location, we're going to put a 0. You have to put those placeholders. They have to go in order. 4, 3, 2, 1. And you have to put that 0 there, whether you're doing synthetic division or long division. So our coefficients are the fourth is a 1, then the cube, then the squared. You don't have it, so put a 0. Then the x, then the number. Between the last two, put a little line, put an addition line, put a plus, put an arrow under the first coefficient, and bring it down. Okay, so our box is set up. Now let's do the math. We're going to multiply, write it down, add them up, multiply, write it down, add them up, multiply, write it down, add them up, multiply, write it down, add them up. We have a remainder this time. So now how do we write our answer? Well, this was a cube, or was it a fourth? Oh, this was a fourth power. So use that arrow to remind you, okay, bring the power down. So this starts as a cube, and those goes down in descending order. And so we have 1x cubed minus 3x squared plus 3x to the first minus 2 without x's. And then what do you do about the remainder? Well, it's positive, so I put the plus, and then you put whatever the remainder is over our divisor, x plus 1. And that's division. So practicing division is important. So make sure that you're practicing your division. And there you go. So thanks so much for watching. Hope you learned something. Have a good day. Bye.